Sally Werner Edwards with Picayune, Mississippi Community Events. And today we have with us Gwen Williams. Gwen is a storyteller, and she is affectionately known as Miss Chocolate by our children in our surrounding area, because Gwen goes not only to Picayune but to places all over. So good morning, Gwen.
Good morning.
We're so happy to have you here with us today.
I'm glad to be here to share with you.
And Gwen, could you give us a little bit about your background? Like, how did you get here to Picayune? Are you originally from Picayune?
I was ushered into this glorious state of Mississippi by a lady named Katrina.
Oh.
Katrina took everything I owned in New Orleans. I had been in New Orleans over 30 years, and so I got planted here in Picayune. So I had been to your state many, many times to do mission events with Southern Baptists. And so I've spoken a lot of churches and things like that in the Mississippi area, but never in my wildest dreams did I ever think of calling Picayune home. But I love it here.
That is terrific, and we are so glad to have you here with us.
I grew up in Louisiana. I grew up on a small chicken farm in Alexandria, Louisiana, and that's where all of my stories come from. I never thought I'd be a storyteller. I never trained to be a storyteller. All of my background is in music. My undergrad degree is in applied music, and my seminary degree is also in vocal music with the emphasis on children's music. That's all I've mostly done all my life, but there was this need in my heart of how to get into our schools and share positive things with children. That's what I really, really wanted to do, and had no idea how to do that. I really didn't. And I'm a daddy's girl, and my dad got really, really sick, and I knew my daddy would never recover. And learning how to deal with that grief, I had no idea. And it was like the voice of God said, tell stories about your life with your dad, because so many of our children don't have dads. So many of our children grow up in single-parent homes. And I'm not saying moms can't do a good job, but I believe every child needs to have mom and dad. And so many children didn't have daddies. So I started telling stories about my dad and my life with him on the chicken farm. And that's how I got started. And because I'm a chocoholic, I used to give chocolate candy to the children all the time. So that's my background in storytelling. I've never gone to a clinic or class or nothing. Had no idea that I could even do that. But that's how it started, by my dealing with my dad, the grief of losing my dad. I started telling stories.
So, Ms. Chocolate, could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days, today?
Well, I started writing, and I write books. Several books I've written on just personal experiences with God and dealing with getting to know God a lot better. But one of my things that I'm really interested in doing now is I've introduced F words. And when you say F words, people go, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, I introduced F words years ago in church and sharing with children, because in schools, the only time you get an F is if you fail. And so I took the alphabet F and gave him a name like Effie and said, now look, just because I'm an F does not mean I can't say positive things to say. So I created this little character called Effie and his encouraging F words. And I started writing little stories about F's and sharing with kids. And one of my favorite F words that I share with all children is fantastic.
That's a good word, fantastic.
I tell them, I says, you are fantastic. God created you fantastic. Now, you have a choice of whether you want to continue with that, and you can do that. And I try to, I can't tell you how many hundreds of children that I've shared with them. I tell them, I says, you're great, you're smart, and you're fantastic. And they'll go, oh, I am? I have to tell you this story. This is too funny. I was at the Arboretum last month, and this little girl, she must have been about 3 or 4 years old, and I shared my little fantastic story with them, and she told her mommy, she said, Mommy, I'm tastic. And then she told her little brother, and she said, and you tastic too. I just thought that was the cutest. I said, Lord, just let me get that message out, and that's what I really want to do with the children here in Picayune area, because I want especially the children in Nicholson area and other areas where they're called other kind of names, but to let them know, say, you are fantastic, and you can be anything that you work hard and put your mind to do. And that's what I really want to do.
Yeah, and when you came to do storytelling at our Fairy Tales in the Park, Jack Reed, in our fall activity for GPAC, and the kids were very much engaged, and they just loved sitting there on the blanket and listening to you. They were all gathered up. And you have some DVDs that you share with
Yeah, I've gotten a DVD of my stories. This one is called From the Heart, Miss Chocolate for Real. Mm-hmm. You get to see Miss Chocolate really tell her stories in living color. I teach 5th and 6th grade Sunday school class at First Baptist Church Picayune, and they know all my stories. They really do. And I tell them stories every time I get an opportunity to teach, because I want my kids to be able to grasp what this thing called life really is. And life is wonderful. It's beautiful. And it's fantastic.
I understand you also do some special programs for the schools. A program with Harriet Tubman that you do in is it February?
Yeah, during Black History Month, I think Harriet Tubman was a great, great woman, and she had so much courage. And I do a program of Harriet Tubman and songs of the Underground Railroad. These are Negro spirituals that are hardly sung in school or church anymore. But these are songs that were songs of strength and hope and encouragement that our kids don't get a chance to know. They need to know that.
Yes, they need all of the encouragement that they can get today, especially in the world that we live in. Miss Chocolate, do you have a story that you might be a little short story that you could share with us today?
Oh, yes. This is one of my favorite ones. I like to tell this one all the time. When I was in 1st grade, I was smart, and I walked in that classroom and I told that teacher, I said, I'm smart. I can count from 1 to 200, and I know all of the dumb stories in that book over there. And the teacher sat me in the back of the room. Oh, I didn't like to behave when I was in 1st grade. I enjoyed moving around and getting in everybody's business. So one day the teacher left the classroom and she said, now put your head on your desk and don't move until I get back. Now as soon as the teacher was out the door, do you think Miss Chocolate was going to sit down? No way. As soon as she was out the door, I was up on the floor bothering everybody in the classroom. Well, when somebody heard the teacher coming down the hall and she said, ooh, teacher coming, I went running to my seat, put my head on my desk. Teacher sat at her desk, now I'm sitting in the back of the room. Well, about that time, somebody threw the nastiest, juiciest spitball, and it landed right by my nose. Well, I wasn't no nasty spitball side my nose, so I looked up to see if I could find who did it. Well, I couldn't discover that, so I took my middle finger and I just plucked that spitball off my desk. You about know where it landed, don't you? Yep. Right on the teacher's desk. She looked at me. She said, come here. I went, yeah, ma'am. I went to her desk and she said, is this your spitball? And I went, no, ma'am. Well, it wasn't. And she said, you going to look at me and lie and tell me that that's not your spitball? No, ma'am. She said, give me your hand. And she spanked me in my hand. Now, I'm being spanked for a spitball that's not mine. Well, if you think that was the end of the story, no way. Several weeks later, my parents came to school for Parents' Day. Well, Daddy ended up in my room. He asked the teacher how I was doing. She said, oh, she's doing fine. She's learning her alphabets and learning how to read a little bit. But she lies. Ooh, my eyes got big as saucers. My daddy said, she did what? Teacher said she threw a spitball on my desk and lied about it. Ooh, I knew I was going to catch it. Daddy said, I'm going to take care of that when I get home. I got home and got spanked a second time for that spitball that wasn't even mine. Well, I was only 5 years old, so you know I wasn't going to say anything. But when I got a little bit older, I said, Daddy, you remember when I was in the 1st grade and you spanked me for throwing that spitball? Well, that spitball wasn't mine. It was somebody else's. I was just trying to get rid of it. My daddy said something that I've never forgotten to this day. He said, sis, I didn't spank you for throwing the spitball. I spanked you for making the wrong choice. Life is made up of choices, and it's yours. You can either do bad things or you can do good things. And I made the wrong choice. There were so many other things I could have done. So remember, always make good choices. Why? Because you're fantastic.
Well, that was a fantastic story, Miss Chocolate.
Thank
And I'm
you.
sure you have many, many more to share with our children.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have a book?
This is my newest book. I do devotional thoughts. Most of the time, I'll be sitting down at the house and God will just speak and something will come out of my spirit. So I've written this book called Chocolate Heart Throbs.
So you're not only a storyteller, but
I'm a writer.
you're quite a writer, too.
Yes.
We want to thank you so much for coming to see us today
Thank you.
and spending time with us.
I am always available to come and share with your children at your school or your church.
You're available for school groups
Yes.
and churches.
Yes.
To do programs for
Yes.
them. It's through the storytelling and the arts that we can reach the children
That's correct.
to help them with their needs.
Yeah.
To get them to grow up and
Yes.
really have a good understanding of who they are and,
That's
and be
right.
proud of themselves.
That's exactly right.
To know that they are
Fantastic.
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And we want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
That's right.
And we're looking forward to seeing a lot more of Miss Chocolate in the Happy New Year.
I'm available.